through storms, unshaken, unbowed, through trials and verdicts, still standing proud, a titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Change in the wind, it's coming fast, a new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch, power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him, he's moving on, with plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules, a new dawn's day, from the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new, a financial revolution fair and true, for the workers, the dreamers, side by side, in Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Change in the wind, it's coming fast, a new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch, power to the people, time to ditch the rich. He's a fighter, a leader with a plan to share.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. 1 second, though. I do have a fan in the background that I just noticed is still on. There we go. No background noise, just in case it was coming through. What is up, everyone? How is everyone's week starting? We definitely had, well, not a restful weekend, that's for certain. I have been busy following along with the conflict that is ongoing in the Middle East. We'll get into talking about that. I'm certain today I won't be able to stay entirely concentrated on crypto for the whole hour. So at some point, I'm certain we're going to break over to talking about Iran and what's going on over there. But how is everyone else doing? Let's say good morning first. Good morning, Mile High Trish. Good morning, Kukla. I hope y'all are having a wonderful one. Oh, and thank you so much for getting that link posted over there this morning, Kukla. Mushroom ladies still on and chatting. I do love those ladies. They are so darn nice. Good morning, Rich Roper. Good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Crazy Chester. Good morning, Doug. Good morning, Anakin. Good morning, Musical Lady and Nature Girl. Good morning, Christina. Everybody's coming and rolling in. Getting that link over there definitely helps out. Now, thank you, Trish and Kukla, for that. And thank you, everyone, for joining me. Very excited to talk about everything we've got going on today. I've got a lot on the crypto side. I've got a few things that I also want to bring up and talk about in terms of global politics. There's a few things that I haven't heard anyone else talking about that I think should be a much larger concern, or it should at least be on people's radars. Change in the wind is coming fast. Power to the people. Indeed, Musical Lady. Change is definitely coming. Tout va bien. Good morning, Zester Mods. Good morning. Good morning to you. I hope you're having an awesome one. Yes. As always, guys, please do remember that the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes, not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. That one is a very important one because I also have some to share today about why I missed the appointment on Friday. I was actually talking about crypto taxes and some of the changes that are coming down the pipeline and some of the things that some accountants are being told to request from their clients. It's going to be interesting. I think it's a little bit of an indication of what we're going to start expecting in the coming years on the crypto side. And it's a little scary, I'll have to say, just because it questions that I wasn't used to, or questions I don't think people are going to be used to when they hear them for the first time regarding cryptocurrencies. But we'll talk about that as well. Good morning, Judy. Good morning, Franco. Good morning, man. Yeah, taxation. Yeah, exactly. No fun at all. Google taxation is theft. I agree. Well, honestly, and that's why I wanted to share what my experience was on that one, because it wasn't bad. It was just a little concerning about some of the questions that are currently on the files now that are considered optional, that may or may not be optional in the future. And those are the ones that I'm worried about. Rich Rober, does Clarity Act have to pass for XRP to move the opposite direction? I'm assuming that he would mean because of how consistent it's been heading downwards, that the opposite direction would be green. Rich Roper, I don't think that the Clarity Act is necessarily required to cause that. But I do think that overall, the crypto market, faith in the crypto market right now, would very much be reinstilled if the Clarity Act were to pass. Because we are at such a point where we either need to, the market is going to capitulate. And that's what we're seeing already in regards to overall sales. Look at what just happened this weekend. Let's go ahead. Let me pull up, and we will start with the links, and we'll start taking a bite out of all the craziness that we have gotten over the weekend and everything coming. This, in and of itself, the market held stable. The market held stable while we watched 37% of the world's global supply of oil and petroleum products potentially be shut off by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The price of cryptocurrencies remained steady despite the attacks on 14 different countries executed by Iran over the weekend. At this point, I would honestly argue that crypto absolutely can go lower, but it is going to go lower on account of pretty much 100% traditional finance, ETFs, and large corporations. And they're going to potentially still be selling. Otherwise, I would view it as market manipulation at this point. And again, so we took out the Ayatollah for oil or to collapse the British banking system. Well, I don't want to, honestly, I would love to get entirely distracted. My part argument would be, when it comes down to the attack on Iran, is that you really need to look in this at the context of China and the United States. Really, the United States' only competition on the global stage. We just unseated Maduro, which shut off one major supply of oil and petroleum to China, and now Iran. Essentially, China's two largest suppliers of petroleum products. It's an attack against BRICS. It's an attack against China. And what has been seen on account of it is that BRICS is unwilling to defend itself. And yes, this is something that's very difficult to talk about in terms of a context of global politics, because, well, I'm an American. I'm on Team America. But in all honesty, this seems very much like an attack against BRICS. And BRICS has been unwilling to defend any of their partner countries up to this point. All of them. Russia has backed down on all of them. China has backed down on all of them. And Trump has essentially stolen China's ability to continue being a major manufacturer in any form or fashion through the destruction of Venezuela and the Maduro regime, and now the impending destruction of Iran. I think that it was an attack against BRICS, and very clearly targeted towards China. But Venezuela, look at the agreements that are coming out of there. Venezuelan oil is going to be very easily controlled by the United States. in the coming decades. And I have very little doubt that that's not a part of the plan when it comes to Iran. Won't work as smoothly as it will in Venezuela just because of overall proximity. Ultimately, it's not that hard for China and Iran to be trade partners, or Russia and Iran to be trade partners. They're close. But absolutely, I think this is an attack on BRICS and that there is something going on that side. But let's get back to the crypto side. We'll jump over to all that and we'll get distracted by everything going on in the world. Absolutely. Right after we get through the exciting bit. The exciting bit in particular is that we have heard some information regarding the Clarity Act. And so overall right now, as we always do, guys, I love to check just where the prices are at. I know that for the average person, when it comes to cryptocurrency, this is essentially how myself and everyone else out there, this is how you determine whether things are going well or not. So we always start here. XRP sitting at $1.40, Bitcoin sitting right under 70,000. I will quickly pull out the 7-day on that one because, with the weekend we had, it would have been curious if we had seen anything crazy occur, but actually we have seen a pretty steady rise, particularly a precipitous rise beginning today. And well, let's get to the big one for all of us. Will the Clarity Act be passing soon? According to Brad Garlinghouse, he does believe that the Clarity Act passage is imminent. Ripple CEO signals a Clarity Act deal highly likely as crypto leaders rally around WIT, saying that it may be imminent because the door is wide open. All right. This is actually further, this has been further confirmed by other sources. Apparently, a potential vote on the Clarity Act is pending, could occur this week. A vote on the Clarity Act. What was not discussed was what the deal actually ended up being. And so this is a particularly scary one and also a particularly exciting one. Brad Garlinghouse and multiple others, including members of the Senate, have said that a vote on the Clarity Act is possible this week, which means they took President Trump's deadline of March 1st, at least somewhat seriously, considering it's the 2nd, and they're planning on trying to get it voted on the week following it. I suppose they must have come to some form of an agreement over the major question, which is in regards to interest on stablecoins. But we could have a vote on the Clarity Act this week. We just don't know what that agreement was. And that's going to end up being the really important part. Was interest for stablecoins taken off the table? Or was it not? And so we've got more coming here. Eleanor Tourette, lots of crypto industry folks jumping to the defense of Patrick Witt, White House following comments from an unnamed source. Those comments coming from an unnamed source apparently discuss in regards to a reduction or a cap on interest rate yield for stablecoins, some kind of a middle ground having been found. That middle ground could end up meaning that, they'll limit the amount that is capable, or they will require the customer to manually do certain parts of it. I've seen a variety of different thoughts on that one. A lot of the people are currently looking at what's been discussed and saying that what may be genuinely taken away is not your ability to earn interest on stablecoins or on cryptocurrency, on any stablecoin, any tokenized real world asset, that maybe that won't be what's taken away. But what will be taken away is the ability for companies to provide that as a service. And so what does that mean? That means that you would no longer be able to go to an exchange like Coinbase, and Coinbase would say, hey, we'll stake your stable coins and we'll give you a return on it. No risk, no work, no nothing. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll make certain it all works out well for you. That is staking as a service. They are providing that as an extra service that is a part of their offerings. In Coinbase's, it's a centralized exchange. The same thing could be said for, say, a wallet provider. Could do the same thing. What is currently being discussed and is possible that it might have been the compromise. And yes, we are speculating, guys. We have not been told what the exact compromise is. I've looked everywhere. All we know is some compromise has been achieved. But what folks are starting to think is that what they may do is essentially force people to manually stake, force people to actually make that agreement on an individual level rather than being able to have a corporation provide that as a service. And so that would mean that I or you or any of us could potentially still go out there and stake our stable coins to provide liquidity or to provide a service or something directly between ourselves and an entity, a smart contract, whatever, a company, but not a company doing it for us. And there is a possibility that compromises of that nature may occur that would make it infinitely harder to bring in mainstream users and for them to be able to achieve the type of interest rates that the banks have been achieving. Because they're not going to know how. It's going to be difficult. They're going to place all kinds of barriers in front of it, essentially to make it to where the average Joe is just going to keep his money in the bank. And that is where a lot of people are currently leaning. And that's where they think the compromises may have occurred around the idea of the ease of access to these yield interest rate bearing stablecoins. But we're going to find out. I view it as very positive news. If Brad Garlinghouse is supporting it at this point, he's that excited about it. He believes that it's coming soon. Ultimately, I have to assume that the compromise is not that bad. Maybe not everything that we want, but it can't be that bad, especially considering that the primary focus and growth of XRP is based around tokenization. And so this stablecoin act is very, very important for us XRP holders and for Brad Garlinghouse himself. His future plans are going to be dictated by the laws that are set into place by this legislation. And so if he is supporting it, we have to assume that the compromise is acceptable. All right, Anakin, I need XRP to go back to 40 cents so that I can grab another 10K. Absolutely. And again, wish I had gotten a heck of a lot more. But I'm quite happy with where my XRP is at. Anakin, that's not so. Anakin says so they won't let you stake anything. That's not where the compromise is currently looking like it's heading towards. It's not that they won't let you stake anything. It's that they're not going to let companies essentially advertise and bring you in because of that. And so, perfect example, Coinbase offers 4% APR on USDC. You just keep your USDC there and they give you 4% APR on it. It's compounding. It's automatic. That is what they're saying cannot be allowed anymore. Or that is where they're thinking that compromise may be achieved. But they're not saying, Anakin, that you can't go out, buy USDC, stablecoin, dollar derived stablecoin off Coinbase, take it over to your Ledger hardware wallet, and then go stake that USDC to earn a return in any variety of different fashions. That essentially is where they're looking at potentially drawing the line. The problem there is just that makes it far more difficult for the average person to start participating. Because now you're going to have to watch Zester's videos. I guess technically the compromise is beneficial for those in the crypto education industry. But in all honesty, it's not going to be beneficial for the average user who would have benefited from being able to just say, hey, bam, done. Take my money, shut up, pay me my interest. But we have to see, guys. We have to see, guys. This is one where it is going to be an extremely tense, I guess is not the right word. Stressful, not really the right word. The day that we get to see the bill that is going forth, the real bill being presented on Senate, post revisions, post everything, the one being voted on, it is going to be an insane day because we are going to need to try to go through an incredibly long bill and figure out where the compromise is inside of it. And what else might have been changed that the news agencies and the legislators just didn't let us know about, that were, side conversation changes. It's going to be a big one because it's really not going to be too hard to figure out how good or how bad it is. Really isn't going to be. Yep, musically. Curious minds want to know what was the back end deal was in getting the Clarity Act on the Senate floor for the vote. Can't wait to find out. Musical lady, if we wanted to musical lady, in all honesty, why is there suddenly such a rush in order to get the Clarity Act passed? I believe that it's strongly based around the fact that we are seeing things on the global stage occur faster than some people thought they were. This breakthrough occurred immediately following the U.S. announcement of strikes on Iran. The U.S. Is absolutely focused on the idea of trying to propagate U.S. dollar reliance around the world. And Trump is very much focused on doing that through petro. What do you think is going to be the payment going into the future for barrels of oil? Remember, it's always been the petrodollar, the petrodollar, the petrodollar. Every political scientist for the past, literally my entire lifetime, but many decades prior to that, since the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, only evolving with Richard Nixon removing us from the gold standard, it's the petrodollar. Why is the United States so powerful around the world? The petrodollar. Because how do you buy oil? You buy oil with US dollars. Well, guess what? You're about to be buying oil with US dollar stablecoins. And so it became a very important problem for United States senators and legislators to get their crap together because, oh, wait, it's happening. We don't have any more time to mess around. I'll take my hat back off on that one. That is my conspiracy theory on why it has suddenly had to occur so quickly. That timing just worked out far too well. Donald Trump said, hey, the 1st of March is the red line. And then Donald Trump said on the 28th of February, you know what? Today's the day. But that is definitely me getting a little bit conspiratorial with the timeline on that one. But I think that there's a far higher likelihood that it did have a really big part of it. Yeah, I've kept it with me ever since the Epstein files release and all of that. I've kept my hat close just in case I need it. Hey, good morning. Poke right back at you, sunshine. Hey, you there, and thank you. I made it myself. There you go. Just need to get an XRP logo on the tin foil hat. Absolutely. Well, all right, though. We've got more. On this side, everything Clarity Act related. The big question is going to be, what was the compromise? But we are hearing the compromise has been achieved. I just want to know what it is. And so, moving above and beyond that, we do have the big question, will the Clarity Act boost crypto prices? And so let's go one step beyond and say, hey, the compromise was great, or at least it was something we could deal with. JP Morgan claims mid-year passing will act as a positive catalyst. And so JP Morgan says the passage of the Clarity Act by mid-year could act as a positive catalyst for digital assets. Supporters believe the bill could accelerate the tokenization of traditional financial assets. This one right here. This is what it all comes down to. I know it seems like such a crazy thing, and people are going to realize what the tokenization of real-world assets means. On average, the average person is going to learn far, far too late. It fundamentally changes the value proposition of traditional finance and of many, many different things. It's a whole different ballgame. But Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong has expressed confidence that the bill could pass soon. Here is another confirmation that is positive. Remember, Coinbase pulled their support for the Clarity Act a few months ago because of this interest debate. Apparently, Brian Armstrong has been informed of the compromise, and it seems as if he is on board. Anakin took a 4-year degree to make that hat. Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, that's what you go for nowadays. I don't know what else you go to college for, because it's not like they're teaching anything. I should not say that. There's many very technical trades, especially the trade schools where you are learning things. But your typical 4-year liberal arts degree, maybe I should say. It definitely took a 4-year. Actually, that's probably graduate student for liberal arts degrees. That probably is a 4+2 to get to that point. All right, though. Let's get over. We got a fun one that I wanted to make certain to share. Steak and Shake. Everybody's, honestly, my favorite of the different little chain restaurants when it comes down to the things they've been putting out. Steak and Shake had quite the announcement. Steak and Shake has started paying employees an hourly Bitcoin bonus of 21 cents. You are paid 21 cents in Bitcoin as an hourly bonus as a Steak and Shake employee. Also offer 1K contribution to Trump account supporting our employees' children. I thought this one was very fun to see. A little bit of a surprise, in all honesty. But Steak and Shake to start paying all hourly employees a Bitcoin bonus of 21 cents an hour. That one's interesting. That I like the idea, in all honesty. And there are companies already in the digital and crypto space where you're allowed to essentially take your salary in a variety of different currencies. But I thought that this brought up an interesting thought in my mind, because as we are moving towards the new financial system, something else is going to become a possibility. We're going to be able to start having a direct choice over what currencies and what they're backed by that we choose to hold our funds in. And that's going to massively change the overall landscape, because yes, well, what if we started taking wages in the form of gold-backed cryptocurrencies or speculative cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or stablecoins or the like? The knock-on effect from that is that people could potentially be being paid 21 cents in Bitcoin or another currency, being paid $12 an hour for their work. And that 21 cents bonus could in the future very easily be worth more than the 12 cents an hour that they were the $12 an hour that you were working for. the idea that people are going to start being able to essentially decide what they keep their currency in. And so you get paid on Friday, you'll have the decision, essentially. What do I want my money in? While I think that seems overwhelming at first, I think it's a very exciting possibility. We will start being able to have a very, very direct effect on the economy. And in many ways, I think for the smart person, or even for the person who has typically been asleep in regards to financial conversations, it's going to start becoming important to know where your money is kept and what it's backed by, and what are you going to be taking your money in? I guess would be the best way to ask it. What are you going to be if you're sitting there and you're saying, "Hey, I'm the Steak and Shake employee." Well, right now it's 21 cents bonus per hour, but what's going to change? What's going to happen when it's I just want to be paid in this. I don't even want you to pay me in a US dollar. I want you to pay me immediately in a stablecoin that is just the US dollar, but I want it paid immediately. Or, hey, I want my check on Friday paid in Pax Gold. I want it in pure gold. There's going to be no reason not to. And employers are going to start providing that as essentially a benefit to their employees, saying, hey, we will allow you to receive payment in any variety of different digital currencies, or we'll just, send you an all kind of normal check type deal. What are y'all going to be taking it in? I think it's a very interesting one to think about. And as folks start to have programs like this, it's going to start instilling into people's minds the idea of delayed gratification. I love the idea of someone's first job being at something like Steak and Shake now. Like, I would have loved that. I'm thinking about it. What if my first job was at Steak and Shake and they were paying 21 cents in Bitcoin as bonus for each hour years ago? Back when Zach was ready for his first job, and wasn't wasn't having his age start with a 3. Where would that be today? I don't know. I really love the idea. I really love the idea of people being able to have that control. I think, of course, you're going to have 90% of everyone is just going to go with essentially wherever the herd is going, traditional fiat. But it's a huge opportunity for people to start learning. I hope a lot of other employers of this nature start to offer similar programs, because I think that it would instill a very good lifelong lesson when it comes down to it. All right. Let's see what I missed, though. Yes, Anakin, that's awesome to have a choice in currency as long as people understand what it means instead of worthless fiat. Absolutely. I think that it will be the opportunity for people to finally see it because their choice will suddenly matter. Right now, it just doesn't seem like you have a choice. Ultimately, what am I paid in? I'm paid in US dollars. If I'm not paid in US dollars, I'm darn sure not taking pesos. And it just really doesn't feel like there is a choice. There already is a choice. But now that opening of the mind is going to start occurring on a much larger scale. In the future, you can get paid at the end of each day. Franco, absolutely. That's what I'm thinking about, Frank. And I think that's what we're moving towards. That is so possible. Because there won't be fees, there won't be extra things, there won't be this time delay. Ultimately, Frank, it's going to massively change our relationship with employers, because we are going to have far more control over the value of what we're paid in. We're going to be able to much easier, in a much easier way, demand exactly that. Pay me each day. There's no reason that you wouldn't pay me each day. Why aren't you paying me each day? Because every day that you hold that money, you'll be earning interest off of it. You are going to be like, yeah, no, I worked on Monday. I want my money on Monday because I want to start earning interest off of my labor immediately. It's gonna change that whole relationship. Jen Hayes, good morning, Jen. Absolutely, going to be very dangerous at first for folks that don't understand. Absolutely, very, very, very dangerous. Musically, an opportunity for tokenized gold for sure. A great way, and I think that there will be a lot of folks that'll start making that decision, saying, "Hey, I just get paid in gold. When I pay my bills, I pay in gold. When I go to the store, I pay in gold. And it will be that easy. It'll just be, I pay everything in gold, but I don't carry gold around. I carry my phone around, or I carry my wallet around. But when I pay for a stick of chewing gum, I paid in gold. And yeah, you'll be able to just do that. And it will not require you to be walking around with, a measuring scale, different denominations of gold and silver tokens, and one of those testing kits to see whether it's pure gold or not. You won't need any of that. You'll just walk right up to the counter and you'll say, "Hey, I get paid in gold and I buy things in gold." That easy. It's crazy to imagine. All right, let's go on to some of our other ones today. Yes. There is. And so this one is curious. There's, as I had said, I thought it was very good. And I still believe that it's very good information, good signs that ultimately we did not see overall markets collapse on account of everything going on over the weekend. That means most likely folks are under the impression this is not going to spill over into World War III or anything of that nature. That would be kind of the guess, but there's still a lot of worry overall. Absolutely did. And so Bitcoin avoided major volatility as the new Mideast conflict broke out, but long-term Bitcoin price patterns still point towards further decreases and a $45,000 per coin target price. Iran tensions form the market's macro focus as analysis dismisses the idea of World War III. As we talked about, inflation risks may limit the duration of U.S. military operations, according to market analysts. Institutional Bitcoin inflows are showing early signs of stabilization after months of decline. And so while overall the fundamentals on the market, and that is not, I should not say that, not the fundamentals, the technical analysis, the market analysis points that Bitcoin's price remains particularly weak. When it comes down to it, we are seeing stabilization in terms of the amount of money coming from traditional finance. And they really are the only major worry at this point. From what we can see on chain, you, I, and an average retail trader, we have capitulated. We have essentially decided we are not selling, and that is what on-chain data is revealing very, very, very clearly. Retail investors have either already sold, and so they sold during the most recent price drops, or they sold, months and months and months ago during some of the panics. The average retail investor has either sold or they are holding. The only major question here in the short term, until we do have legislation pass or until essentially markets start to refresh and the market cycle restarts, it's us waiting for the Clarity Act. It's us waiting for the Clarity Act or something of a similar kind. But when it comes down to it, the overall data is not bad. It just shows that traditional finance right now is really the only influential player. Retail investors are not buying a lot, but they're not selling. And so we very much seem to have hit a stasis point, a point of essentially the average retail investor is very concerned about the market direction, but they're unwilling to sell and they're unwilling to buy more on average. HODL, absolutely. There's no other way to go about it. There's no other way to go about it unless something has fundamentally changed about whatever it is that you put your dollars into. And this is not investment advice, of course, but unless something has fundamentally changed, there is no other answer than HODL. If you believed in it and you thought that absolutely this makes perfect sense, this is going to be a profitable company, this is going to be a profitable endeavor, they're going to fill this market need, this industry is going to continue to rise, they're going to be at the forefront, unless any of those reasons that brought you to that cryptocurrency in the first place have changed, it would be the same in anything else. It'd be the same in the stock market. It'd be the same in gold and silver. Ultimately, if nothing has changed, whatever that price is at this moment doesn't matter. Frank, I'm not certain if my buy order will be fulfilled at 99 cents for XRP. Well, because I do always enjoy throwing out all of the other and different people's opinions on it. XRP faces a $650 million sell risk as chart hints at prices below $1. XRP's weakening technical setup suggests a drop below $1 could be in the cards over the next few weeks as supply rises on exchanges. Over 472 million XRP worth $652 million have been transferred to exchanges in the past week or so. This is a metric that we always look at. If you're moving your crypto, it's the same reason I always say when we're talking about how you hold your crypto. Well, when you have your crypto on an exchange, what are you planning on doing? You're planning on selling it. You're planning on trading it. You're planning on doing something with it. If you're planning on holding it in the long term, it goes to a hardware wallet. The same lesson that I teach on that one, and that is the way to go about it, essentially is an explanation and understanding of why this metric matters. If somebody moved $652 million, remember, they're following Zester's thought process on how to keep crypto safe. They're exemplifying what I suggest doing. They are only bringing crypto to an exchange when they plan on doing things with it. And so typically when you would see a transfer that large, it means they plan on selling. Maybe all of it, maybe part of it, maybe they're just going to see where things go. Maybe they haven't decided, but they consciously made the effort to send $652 million to an exchange, knowing that it would be safer on their hardware wallet. They plan on doing something. And so whenever you see that metric of dollars flowing into exchanges, it is a very hard metric. It is logical, but it, of course, can be manipulated, and it has been manipulated in the past. Bitcoin whales have actually executed this before, where they have literally all piled their Bitcoin into exchanges in order to cause a panic sell and for them to be able to buy cheaper. And so there is a degree where this can be a manipulation, but 99% of the time, it's a fairly hard indicator. And so essentially, Frank, if this article is right, if $652 million of XRP gets dumped on a singular exchange, who knows? You may see that buy order fulfilled at 99 cents. I don't think that prices that low would last long, but hey, it might be an opportunity. Yep. And again, just being patient says a lot when it comes to HODL. Just look at how long it took Bitcoin to get where it's at. Oh, absolutely. Look at gold. Look at silver. There are so many examples of things. Silver was as valuable or more valuable than it is today for all of the past. But people weren't buying it at that price, were they? But silver didn't suddenly change in value. It doesn't make sense. Like silver has a ranging value. Ultimately, the intrinsic value of an ounce of silver is the intrinsic value of an ounce of silver. But the market, the world, reality changes. And as that fundamental, as those fundamental reasons change, the value changes. Paper silver being removed, paper gold being removed, the digitization of precious metals being advented. They fundamentally changed the market. And so, Anakin, I think it is. I think it's a very, very good thing for people to keep in mind that it is patience. And just because that number on the screen says something doesn't mean that number's right. Ultimately, do you think silver was not worth $90 a year ago? It was worth $90 a year ago. Well, what's it at right now? It's $90.14. And I think that people need to take the same mindset that they do in crypto with everything else. What is 1 ounce of silver worth? Let's see who has the right crypto answer on this one. What is 1 ounce of silver worth? What is 1 ounce of gold worth? I'm looking for the crypto answer on this one, guys, and I'm just curious to see who throws it out. This is a crypto test pop quiz. All right. Polymarket. We will check out Polymarket in just a second, but I will give everyone just a minute just to see what is the value of 1 silver ounce. What is 1 silver ounce worth? Because this is always something that people use in cryptocurrency, and I think it's a great little test. Essentially of an understanding of, well, the dollar value is not really the value. 1 silver ounce is worth 1 silver ounce. 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin. 1 XRP is worth 1 XRP. Ultimately, the price tag will change and it will fluctuate. And yes, 1 ounce of silver 12 months ago may have come in at a different dollar value, but its actual value was 1 ounce of silver. It's worth 1. It's 1 to 1. It's fungible in the same way that your Bitcoin is. And so the dollar valuation is really not, it's really not accurate. And I think that precious metals are one that we all have a lot of experience with that have kind of taught that lesson in the clearest fashion, that ultimately what somebody is willing to pay me for a silver ounce does not mean anything. And yes, demand, Anakin, the price that someone is willing to pay, Frank, absolutely. But someone's willing to pay a different price every day. Ultimately, 1 silver ounce is going to be worth 1 silver ounce. We use dollars in a way to, like, it's a false unit. And that's why when people always say, when you're buying cryptocurrencies or you're buying XRP or you're buying Bitcoin, it's 1 to 1. The price you bought it at doesn't mean that you bought it at an accurate value. Ultimately, that's just the price that you bought it at. And I think things like that are going to get, they're going to invade our world more and more. But absolutely. And that day-to-day basis of what that dollar is worth is going to change, because that's what's really changing, Anakin. It's not the silver. The silver didn't change, because here's, hey, what are people willing to pay for it? The silver didn't change. The value of the dollar changed. And so silver is just worth 1 silver. 1 silver ounce is worth 1 silver ounce. The value of your dollar changed. You're measuring the value of a currency based off of another currency. Ultimately, a silver ounce did not become more valuable. That's not what happened. All right, though. Me getting all philosophical with that one. Let's look at Polymarket, guys, and then I will let everyone run off. Actually, well, we'll go through any more questions anyone might have. But otherwise, let's check out Polymarket. I have a feeling I'm going to start doing this regularly on the show, just because it has been so, well, interesting to keep up with. And so Polymarket. Who all has been checking out Polymarket recently? Because I always find it very, very interesting in terms of global politics, just to see whether they're right or not. When? All right. It looks like Polymarket may actually be having some technical issues. Will the Iranian regime fall by June 30th? 40% chance. $5 million in current volume on this market. U.S.-Iran ceasefire will occur by what date? Sorry. Yeah, for some reason, Polymarket is going very, very slow today. I don't know whether it's just having technical issues, but U.S.-Iran ceasefire, less than a 1% chance that it will occur by March 2nd. I guess that makes sense considering it is the 2nd. 8% chance by March 6th, 27% chance by March 15th, 50% chance by the 31st, 68 by April 30th. And so Polymarket prediction markets essentially are at a 50-50 by it being over by the end of this month. What I think is going to start becoming a very interesting thing to look up. And why is it doing this? What I'm trying to show y'all is actually where the Polymarket prediction market was in the literal hours coming up to and then post the U.S. strikes. Because there were very active Polymarket and call sheet markets going on in regards to U.S. strikes. And, well, the market was right. It turns out the prediction market was right, but they weren't right until essentially a matter of hours before the event. And it's a very interesting statistical deep dive to go into. It also makes you wonder whether there's not some kind of insider trading going on, but I don't think it's going to let me. No. Oh, what is it doing? All right. Will it let me? Nope. Yeah, I'm not certain. I might have to get this one prepared. I think something's going on because I'm getting sent all over the place. And there it is. There it is. Look at this. Look at this. And so, as the Polymarket market, the prediction market was ongoing, U.S. next strikes Iran on. And so we had February 6th, which ended up seeing about $3 million in volume, and then February 28th, which saw about $5 million in volume. And so what we saw is that the prediction market essentially kicked in right as the overall event was occurring. And I think this is going to end up being very, very interesting in the long term. First of all, there's already been accusations that insider trading occurred and that military people who had military information went on and placed bets based off of that information. Matter of fact, somebody points out that some guy whose name is like, Trump forever, 2028, placed a $75,000 bet like 2 hours before the strike occurred and won over $500,000 on account of it. And so accusations like that are occurring, but also mathematicians are coming out and arguing that this is a fairly normal human thing. And that actually, when you start placing this into, essentially taking groupthink and investment theory and game theory and placing them all together, that in all honesty, it could just be people that are that accurate. It's a very interesting one. A very, very interesting one. I need to get us going, and we need to do some betting on here just so that everyone can see how it works. I keep planning on doing it, and there just always ends up being something else that comes up, because it's very, very, very interesting. I think people would enjoy seeing how it works, and so I need to get in and do one of those. But I did want to let people know about that in the hours upcoming to the attack on Iran. We did see prediction markets for some reason new. For some reason, the numbers just started to skyrocket before the announcements were made. And so either some guy was sitting there and he saw the missile flying over and he went, oh yeah, it's happening. And he literally was that on that. Or something else occurred. It's interesting. I do have one last thing that I really wanted to share with everyone, and I think is very important that I have not been hearing conversations about, at least in the mainstream news. I have heard this conversation being had between some folks in the tech industry and some military analysts, but I did want to make it, I did want to make a point and put it out there for folks to be thinking about and for folks to be aware of. Iran operates a variety of submarines. Why is this important? We destroyed most of the submarines during the initial attacks, at least according to the information we have received. Well, there is apparently a very, very, very substantial report floating around the military space saying that Iran, in this lashing out phase, because Iran attacked 14 different countries over the weekend. 14 different countries. They attacked military bases of France, military bases of the United Kingdom. They attacked military bases of Italy. They attacked Cyprus, Jordan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. I mean, the list goes on. And since I have been here talking, it's probably one more country on top of that. As they are lashing out at this point in time, there is a very substantial threat that they will decide to lash out at the fiber optic cables that are under the sea. These fiber optic cables stretch between the continents. There are tons of fiber optic cables stretching between the Strait of Hormuz, right off the coast of Iran. There are also fiber optic cables stretching through essentially every major waterway on the planet. We are connected to Europe through countless fiber optic cables. We are connected across the world via these fibers. I used to install fiber optic cabling. And for those that are not aware, what fiber optics are and fiber optic cables, they are very, very, very tiny glass tubes. And what occurs inside of them is light is utilized to transmit data. That is data transmission at the speed of light. Fiber optic cables are pretty flimsy. Now, the ones that are on the ocean floor are reinforced. They're hardened. They're very, very strong. Even the ones that I would install going into corporations and things like that, they were hardened. They had, they had all kinds of different protections because of how valuable they are. Well, why do I say this? Iran is in an information campaign, very much so. And we may see in the coming days or the coming weeks, we may see the internet essentially crash. Because these fiber optic cables, while transmitting at the speed of light, they're not capable of handling everything. And if you took out just a few fiber optic cables, you would essentially push all of that internet traffic to the remaining cables. If you took out enough fiber optic cables, you would bring the global internet infrastructure down. Permanently, no, but for a very long time. And that would leave us stuck with things like Starlink and satellite-based communication. So Puerto Rico, as an example. Puerto Rico has 2 giant satellites on it that transmit to the mainland in the United States. That mainland satellite connects to the rest of the internet infrastructure through fiber optic cabling. But we receive that internet via satellite. Well, that internet will shut off, not because the satellites are shut off, but because the fiber optic cables that were providing that satellite access and making that happen could potentially be damaged. And so I think that folks need to be very, very aware. You need to probably keep in mind, if you know someone who has a Starlink, maybe bake them a casserole if they live anywhere close. If Iran continues to go down the path that they are, there is a very, very likely possibility that as a matter of global terrorism, they will try to take out these fiber optic lines. Does it save Iran? No. But it very much makes sense to me. Essentially, it is not, the kids on the playground and saying, the one kid doesn't like the rules, and so he's the one who owns the basketball and he's going to take it home. No. This would be Iran saying, hey, if we don't get to keep playing basketball, nobody gets to play basketball. We're just going to chop the goal down and we're going to pop the basketball itself. Nobody gets to play. Everybody loses. Blah, ha, ha. It's their version of mutually assured destruction, which has always been the Cold War theory. Essentially, that's why we've got the amount of nuclear bombs we've got. Because why do you need enough nukes to destroy the planet 50 million times over? Well, because Russia might have a few more. It's mutually assured destruction. It could be a way of Iran going, hey, we're going to lose. We're going to make you lose. And the amount that would be lost on account of something like that is honestly indescribable. It would be trillions of dollars in global trade that would be lost. It would be hundreds of thousands of lives that would be lost because of infrastructure outages and everything of the like. And we don't know if the United States is capable or has a hardened enough intranet. And this is really kind of using the word intranet in a very macro fashion. An intranet is typically something that would be like managed inside of your house. You could have an intranet between your two computers, but I'm using the word to essentially talk about the entire internet structure of the mainland United States. Is it hardened enough to handle that? It's a very important question. And even if we are capable of, they could essentially cut off our ability to receive information from Europe, from Asia. And it's not something that it just comes back. It would be years. It took years to put these cables down. This would be a problem that would not go away. We would be stuck utilizing Starlink and satellite-based internet to communicate with any place that had a destroyed fiber optic lines for potentially, at minimum, months, but most likely years. And so, just something that I wanted to let that I didn't see folks talking about it enough. I saw some military analysts discussing it, but when I looked through mainstream media and everything else, they weren't even talking about it. And I'm like, this is something that Iran absolutely can do. This is not something they can't. They can do this. If they want to, they can. This does not require having nuclear bombs or hypersonic missiles. They know where the lines are. They know where the cables are. We have to assume the United States Navy is monitoring this in some kind of hopeful collaboration with our allies. But ultimately, even if we were, Iran is capable of pulling this off. And it would not require them to take out all of the fiber optic lines around the whole country, around the whole planet. All they would have to do is essentially choke traffic to such a point that information couldn't get through anymore. And so you can think about that in the same way. All Iran needs to do is close enough roads that all of the data traffic has to go down the same highway. And now, suddenly, you have a far larger problem. Even if you have less information trying to transact, fewer people trying to use the highway, you have a bigger problem. There's only one. And now you're trying to pack all of that in. Just wanted to give that one as a going away heads up. Leslie K has Starlink. Absolutely. Mile High Trish has Starlink. Crazy Chester has getting the Starlink set up. I'm not saying that you need to run out there and get one or anything of that nature, but ultimately we could be looking at a blackout, an internet blackout, data blackout. And the compounding effects from that are not just the lack of information and everything else. It would allow for governments to essentially dominate with propaganda their domestic internet structure, because there would be no way really of getting out. Think about it. Iran shut down the internet because they didn't want us getting videos. They didn't want the world seeing videos of them shooting their own citizens and their own protesters in the streets. They shut down the internet. Well, think about that on steroids. The internet is shut down. Now, if North Korea wants to go out and start attacking South Korea, maybe Europe doesn't find out for 12 hours. That's an exaggeration, but ultimately it's very, very real on a domestic level. You and I could very easily be placed into a world if the internet were to suffer in that fashion where we would not be able to access that information. It doesn't mean the Pentagon isn't looking at it, but we won't be able to see it. It could create some extreme echo chambers around the world. Ultimately, if they took it down and it took months to come back, we're talking about extreme echo chambers that would occur. The internet would suddenly come back on, and who knows what has been spread in certain countries. You know, literally, internet pops back up, and we find out that Ireland has decided they're going communist anarchist overnight, and they've installed the Grand Pumbaa to lead the country. It could just happen overnight because it would be that easy to control the echo chamber inside of a country. There would be no other data. The truth would be what you say it is. And when I mean that, I mean the government. What the government says it is would be the truth, because there would be no way to prove them wrong. So many compounding effects. But all right. And that's what happened in Nepal when they shut the internet off. They crashed the government and set it all ablaze. Yeah. I mean, well, and look at what happened in Myanmar in regards to the Rohingya peoples, the Buddhists. Ultimately, they shut off the internet because they didn't want anyone knowing that they were committing a genocide. Things like that would be very easy to suddenly do. And so if certain countries suddenly wanted to solve things they believe are problems, it'd be the time to do it. If China decided, hey, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of all of the Uyghur peoples. The Uyghur peoples are the followers of Islam that live in what would be Eastern China, more in the desert region. There's many millions of them. They are not genetically Han Chinese, which the CCP does not like. Would something like this be the moment that China decided they were going to do those type of things? They've made it very clear that's what they believe. And that's a story that can be repeated in dozens of countries around the world. Yep. And Leslie K, they would do the most damage cutting the fiber optic cables in the Atlantic. The scary thing, Leslie, Iran has a lot of submarines. We don't know how many. And it's not a lot in comparison to the United States or a lot in comparison to certain countries. But, Leslie, there could be a submarine sitting over the fiber optic cables in the Atlantic. There could be a submarine sitting over the fiber optic cables in the Strait of Hormuz. There could be a submarine sitting over the fiber optic cables connecting the Pacific to Asia. It doesn't take that many, is essentially what I mean. It doesn't take that many. These are global highways. And if you suddenly decided to cause a traffic jam on one of those global highways, how's the traffic going to redirect? All right, though. Didn't mean to scare everyone with that one in the end, but it's a very interesting one. I hope that we hear a little bit more from the news media in order to prepare more folks for that possibility, because it is a very, very, very real possibility. This is not the, oh, Iran's going to pull a nuke out of their wazoo type, far-fetched. This is very much realistic. Iran could do this. Iran threatened to do this to the fiber optic cables in the Strait of Hormuz long ago. The Houthis succeeded in damaging the cables in the Strait of Hormuz in the past, back in 2025. And that's the Houthis. And so, all right. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. My apologies for we went a little everywhere with it today, but there's so much going on in the world and there's so much that's interesting. It's hard not to want to talk about it. But looking forward to seeing everyone again, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. Hopefully, we're going to know what that compromise was on the Clarity Act. That is what I am looking forward to this week. I hope we hear the compromise and we get it passed, but I'd be happy just to hear the compromise. So, see you guys then. Hope everyone has an amazing, amazing week. Peace, y'all.